So hello, everyone. Today we'll be creating a network diagram. We have on our screen the activities or the tasks, the duration of each task, and the predecessor. The predecessor would be the task that needs to be completed before an activity could start. So if we look at our WBS, we see activities A to L, and if we look at activities A, B, and D, we can see that the three, they don't have any predecessors, so they can all start immediately at the same time. So what we'd be doing today, we'd be constructing a network diagram, we'd be calculating the early start, the late start, the early finish, the late finish, and the total slack for each activity. And then we'll be calculating the duration and we'll be stating the critical path for this project. So let's get started. So based on our activity, we'd go on to create our network diagram. So we would need a start node, and this would be the start of your project. And like I just said, based on the table we have of the WBS, we can see that activities A, B, and D, they have no predecessors, so that they can all start immediately. So we just do an outline of our project, and you see we'd have our boxes drawn, and next we'd insert the tasks associated with each box. So we can see A, B, and D at the beginning, right? And now after we've inserted the tasks, we now have to draw our arrows. So A, B, and C are start. Then we move on to C. Activity C can only start when activity A is finished. So we draw an arrow from A leading to C. Activity E could only start when B is finished, so we have to have an arrow being drawn from B to E. And activity F could only be started after D is finished. Now, G could only start when both activities C and E are completed, so that would mean we need to have arrows coming from C and E going to G. H, in order for H to start, activities E and F must be finished, so this would be the same thing like activity G, whereby you have arrows going from activity E and F to H. Activity I could start when F is finished. Activity G is dependent upon G finishing. Activity K. Activity K could start when activity E and H are finished. So we'd have arrows going from E and H to K. And then activity L is dependent upon I, J, and K finishing. So we have activities there. And this is basically how our network diagram would be coming about. Now, from the table we had before, all the information there is here except the durations of each task. So we'll just put in the duration of each task, and we'll put it at the right bottom corner of each activity. Right, so now all the information that was in the WBS we had before is now in our diagram here. So our next step would be to calculate the early start, early finish, late start, late finish, and the total slack. And we have a key there to show it. So with the crosshairs, with each quadrant, what it represents. And with that, I'll draw one above each activity. So we'll just put that in there. So now we know activity B, D, and D, they can all start on day 0. It doesn't matter of anything else, but they could all start on day 0. So the earliest that they could all start, activity A can start on day 0, activity B can start on day 0, and activity D could start on day 0. But the earliest that they could finish, activity A would take 3 days, so the earliest that activity A could finish would be on day 3. Activity B, its duration is 2 days, so the earliest finish for B would be on day 2. Activity D takes 1 day, so the earliest that activity D could finish is on day 1. Activity C now, so activity C could only start when activity A is finished. Activity A, the earliest that it could finish would be on day 3. So the earliest that activity C could start on would be on day 3. So 3 add the duration of C4, which would give us 7 days. So the earliest that activity C could finish would be on day 7. Activity E is dependent upon activity B finishing. If the earliest that activity B could finish is on day 2, then the earliest start that E could start would be on day 2. E takes 2 days, so the earliest time that E could finish would be 2 plus 2 would be 4. Activity F could only start when activity D is finished. The earliest finish time for activity D is on day 1, so the early start of F would be on day 1. Activity F takes 3 days, 3 plus 1, the earliest finish time for activity S would be 4 days. Now activity G is one of our more difficult activities that we have. Activity G is dependent upon both C and E being completed. So activity C, the earliest finish would be on day 7, and activity E, the early finish would be on day 4. So it doesn't matter that activity E could finish on day 4, activity C would still be going on. So the earliest start that activity G could have would be on day 7, and that would go into our box there. So activity G, the early start would be on day 7 plus the duration of 3, the early finish would be day 10. We have a similar situation whereby activity H would start on day 4 and 5 days duration, so it would be 9 days. Activity I is dependent upon F finishing. If F finishes on day 4, the early start for I would be on day 4. 4 plus 4, the duration of I would be 8. Activity J is dependent upon G finishing. If the earliest finish for G is on day 10, then activity J, the early start would be on day 10. 10 plus 6 is 16. Activity K is dependent upon E and H finishing. E finishes, the early finish for E is day 4, the early finish for H is day 9. So we take the higher of these two numbers, and the early start for K would be on day 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. Activity L is dependent upon J, K, and I finishing. So the early finish for I is on day 8, the early finish for K is on day 12, the early finish for J is on day 16, so we take the higher of the 3, so the early start for L will be on day 16. 16 add 4 would give us 20, so the early finish for L would give us 20, which means that our project should take 20 days. So our duration, so we just take note of this, that our duration of the project should be 20 days. Now, we've just done the forward pass. Now we need to calculate the late start and the late finish for each of the activities, and in order to do that we need to do what is known as the backward pass. So the duration of the project is 20 days, so the late finish for activity L would be on day 20. So 20 minus the duration would give us 16. So the late start of L would be on 16. If we move on now to activity J, the late start for activity L is on day 16, therefore the late finish for J will be on day 16. 16 minus 6 is 10. The late start for J would be on day 10. We move on to activity K. Activity K, the late finish would be the late start for the preceding task. So L finishes on day 16, so K, the late finish for K would be on day 16. 16 minus 3 would be 13. I would take the late start of L. L finishes on day 16. The late start for I would be on, the late finish for I would be on day 16. 16 minus 4 would be 12. G, the late start for J is on day 10, so the late finish for G would be on day 10. 10 minus 3 would give you 7. The late start for K is on day 13, so the late finish for H would be on day 13, so 13 minus 5 would give you 8. Now moving along, we see C, the late start for G is on day 7, so the late finish for C would be on day 7. 7 minus the duration of 4 would give you 3. Now activity E. Activity E has arrows coming from G, K, and H. Going towards activity E has all these arrows coming out from it going to G, K, and H. G, the late start for G is on day 7. The late start for K is on day 13. The late start for H is on day 8. In doing the backward pass, we always take the lower of the 3 in order to get the late finish. So activity G, the late start is on day 7. Activity K, the late start is on day 13. The activity late start on H is day 8. So the late finish on activity E would be on day 7. 7 minus 2 would give you 5. And this is what you need to note, is that in the forward pass, we always take the higher number. When we're going in the backward pass, we always take the lower number. So activity F, we have arrows going up onto H and I. The late start for H is on day 8. The late start for I is on day 12, taking the lower number. The late finish for F would be on day 8. 8 minus 3 would give you 5. Going up now to A, the late start for C would be on day 3, so the late finish for A would be on day 3. 3 minus 3 would give you 0. The late start for E is on day 5, so the late finish for B would be on day 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. The late start for activity F is on day 5. The late finish for D would therefore be on day 5. 5 minus 1 would be 4. So now that we've completed the early start, the early finish, the late start and late finish, we now need to calculate what is known as the total slack. Now the total slack can be calculated when you have the late finish minus the early finish, and I think we should just take note of that formula. The total slack would be equal to the late finish minus the early finish. So therefore, activity L, 20 minus 20, activity J, 16 minus 16, activity K, 16 minus 12, activity I, 16 minus 8, activity H, 13 minus 9, activity G, and this is how we do it, so the total slack. Now, no matter what method that might be used, there would always be that single path where you would have a lot of zeros as the total slack going throughout your diagram. So from this diagram here, we could see the total slack for activity A is 0, for activity C is 0, activity G is 0, activity J is 0, and activity L is 0. So these activities, the path that has the most zeros as the slack on it would be our critical path. So activity A, C, G, J, and L would be our critical path, and this we need to take note of this. So This is what our network diagram looks like. This is what we set out to achieve. We needed to draw the network diagram. Then we needed to calculate the early start, the early finish, the late start, the late finish, and the total slack of each activity. We needed to calculate the duration of the project to be 20 days. And then we also needed to find the critical path of the project. So I hope that you would have enjoyed this video and that you would have learned something from it, and I look forward to your feedback as we continue with our project management lecture series. Thank you.